All right, guys, so we are back. We had some technical difficulties due to the storm that we having out here. So what you guys will hear is a part 1, and this will be part 2. I still have Rachel with me, but we're back. So to the people that we lost that were in the chat room, if you guys want to just hop back in, go ahead and hop back on, and we're going to finish the conversation. So thank you guys. And you guys are listening to the Evening Wind Down. Make sure you're following the show on all the platforms. Make sure you guys hop onto my Instagram. I want everybody that's listening right now to go to my Instagram, Char _ the super chick _ and that's super SUPA, like super, you know, I'm a hood a little bit. So it's super. So we're going to go right back to the show. I have my special guest, Rachel. She is my guest for tonight. And we were talking about surviving domestic violence. We are both domestic violence survivors. We're sharing our stories in hopes that we can help somebody that may be in the situation and afraid to get out of the situation, or just don't know how, or just don't have the strength. And you need to hear from some people, I'm going to call it some super women, that have survived that situation, and you need to get out of it. So, Miss Rachel, I'm going to welcome you back to the show. We left off, we were answering some questions, and I did have another question for you.
Okay.
So, when you guys get back in the chat room, your questions may not be there, but I have them. I've actually jotted them down, so I do have the questions. So, the last question that was placed into the chat room right before the intermission. It was, let me play this real quick, and I want to play this little snippet, and this really did something to me. So I want you all to pay close attention to the snippet that I'm going to play, and then we're going to get back to the questions and back to the show.
Operator 901, where's the emergency?
127 Brynmere.
Okay, what's going on there?
I'd like to order a pizza for delivery.
Ma'am, you've reached 911. This is an emergency line.
Large with half pepperoni, half mushroom.
You know you've called 911. This is an emergency
Do you
line.
know how long it'll be?
Okay, ma'am, is everything okay over there? Do you have an emergency or not?
Yes.
And you're unable to talk because...
Right.
Is there someone in the room with you? Just say yes or no.
Yes.
Okay, it looks like I have an officer about a mile from your location. Are there any weapons in your house?
No.
Can you stay on the phone with me?
No. See you soon. Thank you.
All right, so that little snippet right there, I listened to it, and it did something to me. It really, really, really touched me, because in the midst of domestic violence and you're calling the police, have you, and Rachel, this is me, I'm going to ask you, have you ever thought about calling the police and saying, I want to place an order for a pizza?
Oh, wow, no.
You know, and
Smart,
it's just
though.
like,
Very
that
smart.
was so smart of her, and she was calm, and it was kind of like, I was listening to it, and I said, that was so brave of her. And she was calm, and she was just like, yeah, I want to order a pizza. And she gave the police her address. I mean, she was very direct, and it was just so touching to me. And it just did something to me. Like, have you ever, you know, me and my children, we have codes. So we talk in codes all the time. But did it ever cross your mind that I need to get help, and I'm going to, you know, do this in codes or something? It's just, wow, it just touched me. I was just like, wow, that was brilliant.
I do believe that having some sort of code, or like you say, a way to speak calmly where that abusive person would not even catch what you're trying to do. When I was planning my way of escape out of my second marriage, which had been, as I said, spiritually, emotionally, but also had been physically, he pounded my body into the ground over and over while screaming that there would be no violence in our home. Because he was a self-proclaimed prophet and would always be trying to prophesy to me So I threw a bottle of dish detergent, and I said, I don't want to hear nothing you got to say, and I threw it. Next thing I know, I'm being pounded into the ground because I felt so powerless. My voice was never listened to. So to me, I did something semi-violent, and then it turned into something I couldn't have even imagined. And so when I went numb, when he hurt my son, actually, and I went numb. When you said, Char, that a woman, when she's done or had it, and she just starts strategizing and doing all that, and I did call the police. I lived in New York at the time, and the police came to the apartment, and because he was in the military, they didn't do a daggone thing to him. They just took him out of the house for a while. And I started planning my escape at that time, and he thought I was just, because he was so into church, he thought I was just talking to church people, what they were helping me to get out. Yeah, so doing that pizza call and all of it, you have to be, this person that wants to control you wants you to tell them everything. They want to know every single thing, but you have to be very secretive if you want to stay safe, unfortunately.
Right, and staying safe is really important, and it's really hard to do when you're in an abusive relationship, because the thing is, usually if you look at the statistics, once you call the police and put a personal protective order out, it drives them crazy. That's when, now I'm pissed off, now I'm mad, I can't believe you would do that to me, I can't believe you would call the police on me, but you've been beating me like a dog for all this time, and you got the nerve to tell me what you can't believe that I would do to you, and I'm trying to protect me. So being safe is very, very important when you're in an abusive relationship. So definitely think it out, strategize, never act off impulse. You have to be smart about it, and you have to have your ducks in a row, and you cannot play with this person, and lead them on. 1 minute I'm in love with you, the next minute I hate you, the next minute. You have to be you and be smart and plan it and strategize it, especially when you have kids in the equation. So that question we were going to go to, and I wanted to let you guys hear that skit before we just went right into the next questions. Did you talk to close friends and family to help you out of your situation?
Well, as I shared earlier, I believe my mother had passed away, I think, around the beginning of my marriage to my first husband. So my family unit was his family, his mother, his siblings, all of that. And so I even went to his mother one time, and she said, "That's your husband." I didn't get anything else. So I knew that was not a resource for me. My family back home in Seattle, I was not very close to them. I had distanced myself from them for years. So I was embarrassed and ashamed. I didn't want them, and this is what black people do. We don't want you knowing our personal business. We don't want our business in the street. With my second marriage, I had a really good friend in New Jersey, and still, she might be listening right now. I love you, Lisa. She was there for me, and she knew I could do it. She knew I was a strong person, and she's always been in my corner. So I had one really, really good friend at that time that I'm grateful and thankful for. I don't think I would have made it out without her. So, but you got to be careful though too. If you're really gonna do it, you can't be hemming and hawing.
Yeah, that's what you can't play around with people's emotions.
Go. Because if you come back, and I'm talking about if they're like really abusing you, you know what I'm saying? Not, you just mad and had an argument or something like that, you know what I'm saying? But if you're really in an abusive scenario and situation, and I had my kids, but they lived between their father and I over the years. So sometimes they were with me, sometimes they weren't. So I didn't have to necessarily have that dynamic going on with me. And I think the thing is you go numb. And many of you may know that feeling. You go numb, you don't know what to feel anymore, you feel lost. I left my second marriage, I left New York City, and I went to Atlanta with a church conference. That was my way of escape then. Because he signed off on me going to anything regarding church, And I remember I stayed with my great aunt, And she looked at me, and I was crying, and I had these tears streaming down my face. And she said, baby, if you're crying, you weren't ready to leave. And I immediately wiped my face. I said, no, ma'am, I'm fine. I just felt so lost. I didn't have a job. I didn't have a car. But let me tell you all, ladies, gents, whatever, I worked my butt off and rode the bus, the MARTA, for a year, saved my money, and bought a car cash. There is a way out. There is a way up. You have it within you. It's already in there. It's already in you. No matter what a person has told you, no matter what names they may have called you, I've always had a fight in me. I definitely have. But I told Char earlier, I tried to take my own life. And my daughter found me. She couldn't wake me up. Took a handful of Ambien.
Oh, wow.
I probably devastated my daughter at 14 years old. She couldn't wake me up. And I made a promise to myself. I said, I'll never try to take my life again because I don't want my children to be without a mother.
So was it the fear of you not being able to get out, or were you just afraid of what was going to happen when you got out?
I was already all the way out. I was making good money, living in Hawaii, had my own apartment, but I felt I failed as a parent, as a wife. He was remarried to their stepmother, and they owned a home, and I was sitting here, I felt like I had nothing, and all of these crazy thoughts that go through your mind. And the thing was, he was still abusing me even years later, verbally, over the phone. And
he had a hold on you.
Exactly. Yeah. Why you do this and da 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 da, whatever, you know. And guess what, y'all? You don't have to talk to that person if you don't want to. You can block them.
Yeah, you can block them. But yeah, are you really? That's when you're really not. Oh, you know, I had another young lady. I don't know if you listen to some shows. I'll text it to you. Okay. And well, TT's in the chat room. She said, "So you felt worthless? Did you feel worthless?"
Absolutely worthless. And the thing was, guess what, Char? I was making almost $100,000 a year. Had a motorcycle, a car, a fabulous job, and I lived in Hawaii, and I tried to kill myself.
Because something down in the inside was just not right. You weren't healed.
So we might have people on the call that got college degrees, bachelor's, master's, PhD. Their husband might be a doctor. It doesn't matter what your socioeconomic status is. You are not immune to this. It can happen to anybody.
And if you're not completely, if you can't talk about it, you're not free. I tell everybody that if you cannot share your story, then you are still being held bondage. If you are still taking up for that person or still covering up for your past, which is your past, then you are not free. You are not healed. You are not ready to walk the next walk, because what will happen is you will try to commit suicide. That stuff festers on you. If you haven't healed all the way, it festers and it makes you sick, and you're sick on the inside.
Yeah.
So, gosh, I was going to say something to you before that question.
I mean, our lives are valuable. God put us here for a reason. We all have a purpose. We're all valuable. But you got to know that for yourself. And I'll even say, I reached out to church leadership, and I did not get support. So that was devastating.
Oh, yeah.
When my pastor at the time, I had acne all over my face. I was crying out for help. All he said to me was, follow your husband.
Yeah.
Nobody believed that he was abusing me.
Same thing happened to me. You reach out to the church, and, you know, my church told me, well, we got to check with him to see what's really going on first. As if I were lying, or if, you know, I wasn't worthy of being able to tell you, hey, I need help. We're struggling. Oh, well, we need to talk to him first just to see what's going on.
Oh, yeah. And don't, your faith is different than church. Your faith is different.